Hey guys, this is StrifeCro, and I am here to do my Kobolds and Catacombs card review. Today I'm going to be doing, let's say, around maybe 15 to 20 cards. I'm going to start with Druid, Hunter, Mage, and Paladin. I don't believe I'm going to get every card that's been announced yet, since there's some lag time in these videos and they're constantly being new cards released, but I'll get what I can so far. Okay, so the way I'm going to do the ratings is I'm going to rate every card between 1 to 5. 5 would be the highest, 1 is the lowest. 5 is something like, maybe the explanation of 5 is a card to build your deck around. And these are what are the strongest things you can do in this format. Some example cards that I currently would rate 5 is Patches and Aya, potentially. These are, like S plus tier cards that are the core of what these decks are based around. My rating for 4 would be something like best card in that slot. So cards like this would dominate this mana cost. Like, it's the best 7 drops. So, like, for example, Bone Mare, Tar Creeper, Cobalt Dragon. These cards I would rate as 4 out of 5. None of these cards are like build a deck around, like Patches or Aya. They're not the best card in the deck, maybe, but they are the best card of that mana slot. You can make, certain, like, maybe you do build Prince Rugran Bone Mirror. I'm not sure, but it's kind of debatable what everything is. But anyways, yeah, that's what rating 4 means. Rating 3 would be like a filler card for that slot. So if you think about every deck as being 30 cards, if I give a card a 3 rating, that kind of means that it's towards the bottom of that. So it'd be like the 30th best card in that deck, the 29th best card in that deck. Some of the examples I have are Cabal Courier, Dirty Rat, Blood Mage Thalnos, Atreus Veteran. These are some of the cards that are still being played in these competitive decks, but they might not be the best card of that mana cost. But say you want, more 1-drops, and so you start using Atreus Veteran instead of Flame Imp, for example. So they're still played in these decks, but they're not. They're towards the bottom. My rating 2 would be Fringe Playability. That's something that might not even make the list, but it's at least considered, maybe. So something like a Harvest Golem would be a good example. You rarely see Harvest Golem in any deck right now, but it's kind of like, if cards are 35 cards, you might see that card being played in some decks. Maybe not Harvest Golem in particular, but it's kind of goes into like more fringe playability. My rating 1 is unplayable, like Magma Rage. We're not going to elaborate too much on that. Okay, I'm gonna be rating the cards largely on its potential in an archetype, rather than the metagame stuff. So I guess let me rephrase that. I'm gonna be rating the cards largely based on its potential in an archetype, with only smaller considerations on the metagame. The reasoning is because Blizzard in the past year or so has been pretty good about archetype balance, like or at least class balance. All 10 classes are pretty competitive right now, at least more so than before, and a lot of archetypes are also, like, say, mid-range Druid, big Druid, small Druid. Like, there's a lot of archetypes are pretty viable, lots of different kinds. So rather than trying to predict the entire meta, I'm going to assume that a lot of archetypes are, fairly balanced, and going to be rating the cards based on how good it is. Okay, so we can finally get to our first card here. I'm going to be starting with Druid, Jasper Spellstone. Jasper Spellstone gets a rating of 3. Since spellstones are inherently pretty build your deck around, but Jasper's Spellstone in particular, it has a strong effect from the get-go that doesn't increase much in value as something like the Warrior Spellstone. I think Jasper Spellstone is a solid playable, but isn't really make or break in any decks. You might tune your deck you might tune your deck a little differently if you have Jasper Spellstone, but it's certainly nothing to build your entire deck around. 3 would be like a filler card in that slot. It's not like one of the better cards, and I would consider Jasper Spellstone to be played mostly in slower druids like ramp druids, and it's certainly not one of the best cards in that slot for anything. It's kind of like a filler card. Okay, next card is Grizzly Guardian. Grizzly Guardian I would rate as a 2 out of 5. Grizzly Guardian is an 8 mana, 3/5 taunt, death row, recruit 2 minions that cost 4 or less. It can be compared with Savannah Highmane. So for 8 more mana, or no, for 2 more mana, you get a weaker body with taunt and perhaps a stronger death rattle. You can, it's very similar, right? Savannah Highmane's a 6 mana 6/5. This is an 8 mana 3/5 taunt. I would consider Savannah Highmane to have the superior body, initial body, since the 6/5 is much better than 3/5 with taunt. For the death row, recruit 2 minions that cost 4 or less. This is certainly better than both the 2/2s, but again, costing 8 mana is very expensive. I feel like this card might be able to enable some combos, particularly with Violet Teacher, but Recruit is still a fairly hard requirement to build around, meaning you can't put any other cards less than 4 mana in your deck if you want to guarantee something, for example. So if you want to compare a card for Druid that's similar to Grizzly Guardian, you can compare it to Medivh, right? Medivh compares very unfavorably with the Guardian compares quite poorly with Medivh, since Medivh gives you initial 7/7 body, which is way stronger than 3/5, and the next 2 turns you can kind of think of the death rattle, and you're gonna get much more value out of like the Atish over 3 turns, or even the next turn, than Grizzly Guardian when it dies. So yeah, I rate this like fringe playability at best. Next card is Branching Paths. Branching Paths is a choose twice card. So it's a 4 mana card where you get to choose 2 effect, draw a card, give your minions +1 attack or 6 armor. The main appeal here is in the armor gain, with the other forms being pretty weak. 4 mana for 12 armor is the same as Greater Healing Potion with added flexibility. Added flexibility is really additionally great in situational effects like armor gain. Some matchups you don't want any armor gain, you can just cycle that for 2 cards. Not going to be as good as Nourish, since Nourish you get 3 cards for 1 more mana. So and Nourish can also be double up as ramp. So again, I don't think this card's as strong as Nourish, but another input I have on this is a card like Branching Paths has a very hard time being too broken. They're kind of like additions to, like slower decks or something like that, rather than like, I'm not going to build a Branching Paths deck. It's just kind of like a healing card you put in your slower deck. Give your minions +1 attack is a form, but no one's going to use this in aggro for sure, right? You could just pay 1 mana for Murky Lotus, which gives +1 attack and +1 health. That's literally like the worst form. But anyways, it does give you some kind of playability there if you win the board and you don't need the cards where they heal. You need to trade or push damage. So again, Blizzard has been pushing the power of healing cards a little bit further each expansion. This is maybe their furthest iteration of it. Healing cards keep getting stronger, but again, they're never that good. So this is a 3 out of 5 in my opinion. The last Druid card we're doing today is Twig of the World Tree. This card I've seen some controversial stuff on Twitter. So this is a 4 mana 1/5 death rattle, gain 10 mana crystals. Yeah, okay, so I'm rating this a 2 out of 5. So Twig offers a huge tempo gain somewhere along the road, along with small chip damage compared to other ramp, like Wall Growth. Wall Growth offers steady mana gain over multiple turns, whereas Twig offers like 10 mana 5 turns later after you play Twig, in a general case. Your opponent can also like ooze or Harrison Jones this on. So like if you play Twig on turn 4, they're probably not going to want to ooze you to 10 mana, right? But if you're getting close to turn 10 and you want to do like a big tempo play with Twig, like 10 drop Twig final swing than another 10 drop. They can easily just break it on their turn with the weapon thing. So yeah, Twig can instantly be overridden with other weapons, but for Druid, the only thing that you could do this with is Medivh. Even Big Druid has a really tight list right now with a lot of cards like, Curator, Bright-Eyed Scout, Barnes, Jungle Anaconda. I guess Curator doesn't belong with these three, but let's say Bright-Eyed Scout, Barnes, and Jungle Anaconda all have potential of huge tempo swings, and yet none of these cards are used in Big Druid. Bright-Eyed Scout, to be fair, is in some lists, but even that's been getting cut more, and that's because like Big Druid has so many things they want. You want like early ramp. They have so many ramp cards right now with wall growth, Jade Blossom, Mirekeeper, Nurse. That's already 8 ramp cards. If you can't iterate, that's 10 out of 30 is ramp. Then you need like removal, probably like 10 removal cards if you count Spreading Plague, and then you have bombs, and you're just not able to fit like 10 bombs, and then now you're not able to fit any of these like cards like Bright-Eyed Scout, Barnes, Anaconda. So these are like big tempo gains, but you might as well just not run them and just convert your deck into just all those cards into one of those 3 categories, right? Because what those cards all have similar is that they either need to high roll or they need your hand to have a certain card already. Like Anaconda, for example, you need that 5 attack minion plus. Twig is kind of the same. Like Twig, you need Medivh in your hand for it to be good for the most part. That's just one card. Without Medivh, Twig is 5 cards. Like at any given point in time, the game is likely going to be over 5 turns later, right? You see a lot of games end within 5 turns, and by the time that you draw Twig, it's at least like, if you get him exactly on turn 4 and you get exactly Medivh, that's when it's going to be good, probably. But you get Twig even late game, the game's not even going to be 5 turns from now. And even if it is, you have to have something to spend your mana on at that point. It's just, I think this is so bad. So I'm going to rate this 2 out of 5, Fringe Playability. Alright, next we're getting to Hunter. The first Hunter card we're reviewing is Wandering Monster. Wandering Monster is a secret. It's a new secret. When an enemy attacks your hero, summon a 3-cost minion as the new target. So I'm going to rate this card a 4 out of 5. That's really high. Unpredictability, I feel, is an extremely strong effect on secrets, and Wandering Monster is a nightmare for your opponents to plan around. So if you compare this to something like Bear Trap, when a minion hits your hero, when your hero gets attacked by anything, let's say, it summons a 3/3 bear with taunt. Now that's usually going to be stronger than a random 3-cost minion, but again, the difference is the target becomes this minion. It's much more unpredictable for secrets. Like for Bear Trap, they can hit you with a dagger, even a minion, and then just use a spell to kill your bear. For Wandering Monster, so many things can happen that's going to go bad for your opponents. Generally, when people make minion trades, they need to know how they're, they need to know, pre-plan their entire turn. It's very tricky, right? Like, you can't just attack a minion into another minion and not know what's going to happen. And that's what's going to happen all the time with Wandering Monster. You're going to be attacking a minion into another minion, potentially trading a 2/3 for a 3/4, things like that. Or a 3/3 might even die to 3/1. Like, it doesn't even matter that a lot of the 3-cost minions, maybe they're kind of bad, like 3/1s, like a Wolf Rider, but there's no difference between a 3/1 and a 3/3 for like a 3/3 trading into it, So a lot of times you're getting the best out of both worlds, and with potential death rattles, I think this is going to be one of the premier Hunter secrets, especially in slower Hunters, where enemies are going to trigger attacking your hero more often. Next Hunter card I am doing is Seeping Oozling. Seeping Oozling is a 6-mana 5/4 Battlecry. Gain the death rattle of a random minion in your deck. Okay. This card I'm rating a 3 out of 5. There are a few death rattles for Hunter that are as strong as Savannah Highmane. And this has a smaller initial body than Highmane. So this card's very similar to Highmane, right? It's a 6-mana 5/4 instead of 6/5, and then you basically have a death rattle with another random minion in your deck, and that minion could even be a high main, right? So it can literally be the exact same thing as high main, except 5/4 instead of a 6/5. That being said, high main is the centerpiece of mid-range hunter and an extremely strong card. A card being a little bit smaller in high main is generally not the end of the world, but you know, that being said, it's hunter, so if it was like a druid card for 6 mana, that was a little bit weaker than high main, maybe. But this is literally the same slot as high main, so it's going to be hard to fit this in. I can talk a little bit about now, like the other things possible to do with this card. It might be possible to build egg archetype with this card, running things like Devilsaur Eggs, Meat Wagons, or Twilight Summoners to activate this as a 5/5 death rattle. But even a 5/5 death rattle is not really too much superior than just a high main, right? The 2/2/2s. Combine that as a 4/4, and those are almost the strongest possible things you can do with Sleeping Oozling. This also combined with the new Hunter legendary that could have Death Rattle, recruit a minion from your deck, so it's possible for Sleeping Oozling to hit Katrina Winter Wisp, getting just like recruiting a random minion, but that's still too slow. I think the deck is too slow for a dedicated card, for a dedicated deck with like all big beasts and Sleeping Oozlings and Winter Wisps rather than just mid-range hunter. So yeah, if you just go over which death rattles in standard mid-range hunter is stronger. Even if you look at I forgot the name of it, but it's the one where you get a 1/1 beast for every attack. You only get 5/1/1s. Even that's not as good as having 2/2/2s a lot of times. It's really hard for any death rattle to be better than high main, just making this card strictly worse than a high main. Now we're going to go to the next hunter card, Crushing Walls. Crushing Walls is a 7 mana spell that destroys your opponent's left and most minion. I'm going to rate this card a 2 out of 5. Fringe Playability. 7 mana is more expensive than a lot of board clears. I can say a lot of good things about this card, like it has synergy with Explosive Shot, with minion positioning, and it doesn't hit your own minions. It's like a one-way board clear, but all those arguments pale in comparison with the mana cost of it. It's a 7 mana spell. This is nowhere near as good as Flame Strike, and Flame Strike isn't even that good and constructed nowadays. So yeah, like Flame Strike is also a one-way clear, and I'd rather do almost certainly do 4 damage to the entire board than just destroying the left and rightmost minion. It might, like, Crushing Walls might be more suitable for Hunter than high mana is in some ways, because Mage is capable of playing from behind more, and like so that their board gets wider. But still, that's a lot of mana for a Hunter to. Hunter wants to win the game early, and certainly not a Control Hunter, because again, Control Hunter would want the Flame Strike effect if that was a thing. Then like the entire board. Our last hunter card today is Katrina Winter Wisp, the new hunter, one of the new hunter legendaries. This is a 8 mana 6/6 with Battle Cry and Death Rattle recruited beast. Katrina is a strong 8-cost minion for mid-range hunter, even if it does get the occasional Alley Cat. So let's see, if you get an Alley Cat, it's 8 mana 6/6 and then 1/1, and then maybe Death Rattle gets something else, and that's still. You can compare a lot of cards to high main, but that's just what it is. And say you get a stronger thing from the Death Rattle, it's kind of even okay. It costs 2 more mana than high main. Being able to hit high main sometimes, like, you can literally recruit the high main from this, and that's crazy. So I feel like high main is high roll, a 3/2 is mid roll, and like a 1/1 is low roll. Assume you can't cut Alley Cat from mid range hunter. Even if you get a 3/2 on both sides, it's like kind of okay. If you roll both 3/2s, probably worse than high main because of the mana. But another card I want to bring into focus with this card is Corpse Widow. Corpse Widow is starting to look like a really strong inclusion in mid-range hunter because Corpse Widow hits high main, but right now we don't have too many other things. Corpse Widow on 5 into Katrina on 6 is a huge play. You can just play it directly on curve. And also Corpse Widow is a great minion to hit from Winter Wisp's Battle Cry and Death Rattle. Recruiting a Corpse Widow basically allows you to recruit a 4/6 from a from the Death Rattle or Battlecry. That's very powerful. Katrina has even more potential in a Big Hunter, but that's definitely a lot more experimental. You can pull, it could even pull 10 drops like the Mastodon, or it can even pull charged Devil Swords that don't have the downside where it can't charge face. There's a lot of things that you could build a dedicated Katrina deck around, but you'd have to forego all the small beasts in a deck like this. And since Katrina is still a legendary, meaning you can't have 2 Katrinas in your deck, that's the downside, right? If you want to build a dedicated like Big Hunter, you probably want more than 1 Katrina in your deck. Big Priest wouldn't really work only with Barnes and Eternal Servitude without the Shadow Essence. It'd just be too hard to hit that one of Barnes for Eternal Servitude. Right now we can Shadow Essence or Barnes into Eternal Servitude. But anyways, I think it's probably not a thing. But yeah, I just want to bring it up. I'm still rating this card 4 out of 5 just based on the raw power level. Even just in putting this in mid-range Hunter without, say, a dedicated Big Hunter list. This card would be 5 out of 5 in Big Hunter if that can become a thing. That'd be the cornerstone of the deck. But yeah.